You and Priya. You and my best friend. How long? How long has this been going on?
Welcome to Turning Point Tales. If this is your first time here, please like and subscribe for more amazing Turning Point Tales stories. And if you have been here before, you already know what we do. We tell the stories that stay with you. Now let us get to it. A woman, 6 months pregnant. She finds out her husband has been cheating on her with her best friend. You will not believe what she did next. This is the story of what she was waiting for. Amara Osei was 32 years old and 7 weeks pregnant when her life still looked exactly the way she had designed it. She was a senior architect at Mensa & Cole, one of the most respected design firms in the city. 7 years of precise, disciplined work had taken her from junior associate to the woman whose name appeared on the firm's most prestigious projects. She had met David at a charity gala 6 years earlier. He was charming in the way that certain men are. Effortlessly warm, the kind of person everyone in the room liked immediately. He was a marketing director at a mid-sized consulting firm. He had a good laugh. He remembered birthdays. He made her feel chosen. They married 3 years after meeting. Their wedding was everything Amara had designed it to be. Elegant, intentional, beautiful without being excessive. Priya Mensa was her maid of honor. Priya had been her best friend since their first year of university. 15 years of friendship, dormitory rooms, and bad decisions, and good wine, and every significant moment in each other's lives. Priya was the first person Amara called when she got her first major commission. Priya was in the room when Amara took the pregnancy test. She was already planning the baby shower. At 6 months pregnant, Amara's life looked exactly the way she had always imagined it would. David brought her ginger tea in the mornings because the smell of coffee had started making her nauseous. He came to every prenatal appointment. He had already painted the nursery, soft gray with white trim, exactly the way Amara had sketched it. Priya texted daily. She sent baby clothes in colors she knew Amara would approve of. She was present at every scan, seated beside David, leaning over to look at the screen with the same wonder that he wore. Everything was as it should be. Amara had no reason to look. She was not looking. It was a Tuesday evening in October. David had fallen asleep on the sofa after dinner. His phone was on the kitchen counter. It lit up. Amara was not the kind of woman who checked her husband's phone. She had never been that woman. She believed in trust the way she believed in good architecture, as a foundation that either holds or it doesn't, and there is nothing to be gained from pulling at it nervously. But the screen lit up, and she was standing right there, and she glanced at it the way anyone would. The name on the screen was Priya. That was not unusual. Priya texted David sometimes, coordinating surprise plans for Amara, checking in about the pregnancy. That was normal. That had always been normal. But the message preview was 4 words. 4 words that should not have existed in any context between her husband and her best friend of 15 years. Does she suspect anything? Amara stood at the kitchen counter for a long moment. She did not pick up the phone. She did not wake David. She turned off the kitchen light and walked to their bedroom and lay down in the dark and stared at the ceiling. And she began to think. The next morning, Amara woke up before David. She made his coffee. She kissed him on the cheek when he left for work. She smiled at the right moments. And then she sat at her desk and she began to work. Not the architectural work she was paid for. The other kind. She started where the evidence would be clearest. The financial records. As a joint account holder, she had full access to everything. She had simply never looked closely because she had never needed to. She looked now. What she found did not announce itself dramatically. It came in small, unremarkable transactions that only meant something when you placed them in a line and looked at the pattern. A hotel in the city center. Checked in on a Thursday in February. A Thursday when David had told her he had a late work dinner with a client. Another hotel. March. A Saturday when Amara had been visiting her mother. A restaurant she had never been to. A florist she had never received flowers from. A jewelry store receipt for earrings that were not in any box she owned. 2 years of transactions. 2 years. Amara sat with that number for a long time. 2 years meant it had started before the wedding. She went further. She is an architect. She understands that structures reveal themselves when you know how to read them. She began reading. She found an email account David used, not his primary one, an older one she had known about but forgotten. She did not have the password. She did not need it. The password reset went to a backup number she recognized, an old number of his she had saved years ago and never deleted. She reset it. She read. What she found in that inbox was not what she had been bracing for. It was worse, because what she found was not just the affair. What she found was Priya, not in the background, not as a secret discovered separately. Priya, who had been texting David throughout Amara's pregnancy, not to coordinate surprises, but to ask how Amara was feeling, what the doctors had said, whether she was stressed, whether she was sleeping well. Priya had been using every piece of intimate information that Amara had confided in her best friend of 15 years and feeding it directly to the man she had been sleeping with behind Amara's back. She had been present at every prenatal appointment. She had held Amara's hand when the scans showed the baby was a girl. She had been planning the baby shower. Amara closed the laptop. She sat in complete silence for 11 minutes. She counted them. Then she picked up her phone and called her lawyer. Amara Osei did not confront her husband. She did not call Priya. She did not tell her mother or her sister or anyone who might react in a way that could be noticed. What she did over the following 6 weeks was work. She met with her lawyer twice. Both times she scheduled the appointments during David's work hours and told him she had client meetings. She moved her personal savings, the account she had maintained independently since before the marriage, the one she had never commingled, into a new account at a different bank. She documented everything, every hotel receipt, every email, every transaction. She built a file the way she built a building, methodically, from the foundation up, with nothing left to chance. She continued going to her prenatal appointments. David came to every one. She continued having dinner with Priya. She ordered her usual. She laughed at the right moments. She had learned in those 6 weeks something important about herself. She was not a woman who destroyed things in anger. She was a woman who waited until the structure was complete before she removed the supports. The due date was a Tuesday in December. Amara planned accordingly. Labor began at 4 in the morning on a Tuesday. Amara woke David calmly. She had her bag already packed, had packed it weeks earlier with the same precision she brought to every project. They drove to the hospital in the dark. David held her hand. He was attentive and frightened in the way that good fathers are meant to be frightened, and Amara watched him and felt something she could not entirely name. Not love, not anymore, but something adjacent to it. The memory of what she had believed he was. Labor lasted 11 hours. David was there for all of it. He did not leave. He brought her ice chips and held her hand through the worst of it and said her name quietly when she needed to hear it. Priya sent a text at noon. Thinking of you both. Can't wait to meet her. Amara read it. She said nothing. At 3:17 in the afternoon, her daughter was born. 7 pounds, 2 ounces, perfect. The nurse placed the baby in Amara's arms. David was beside her. He was crying. He reached out and touched his daughter's hand and said her name, the name they had chosen together, and Amara watched him do it. She let him have that moment. Then she asked the nurse for her phone. David looked at her. "You want your phone right now?" "Yes," she said. "Now." She composed 2 messages, identical, one to David's number, one to Priya's. She had written them 6 weeks earlier and saved them as drafts. She pressed send on both. The message read, "She is here. She is perfect. Her name is Nadia. And the divorce filing you will both be receiving tomorrow is not a mistake and not a conversation. Do not contact me. Do not come to this room. Do not send flowers." She set the phone down on the bed beside her. She looked at her daughter. David's phone buzzed in his pocket. He read it standing in the delivery room, still in his coat, still with tears on his face from watching his daughter born. He looked at Amara. She did not look at him. "Amara!" "There is a security instruction at the front desk," she said. "Please don't make me use it." He stood there for a long moment. Then he left. Amara's mother arrived the next morning at 7. She did not ask many questions. She looked at her daughter, and she looked at the baby, and she put her bags down, and she said, "Tell me what you need." David arrived at 9 with flowers and an explanation that began with the words, "Let me explain," and ended at the security desk, where the staff informed him, professionally, firmly, that he was not on the approved visitor list. He texted 17 times over the following 48 hours. Amara read none of them. Priya called 14 times. Amara blocked her after the first. There were people who heard what had happened and said, how could she be so cold? In the delivery room? On the day her daughter was born? Amara heard this and felt nothing, because those people had not sat in the dark at 6 months pregnant and understood what had been done to them. Those people had not looked at their best friend across the dinner table for 6 weeks, smiling, and known. Coldness was not what she had been. Precise was what she had been. And there is a difference. The divorce was finalized 4 months later. David contested nothing. Amara's lawyer had built the kind of file that left no room for contestation. She kept the house for 3 months while she found her apartment, chosen by her, designed by her, everything in it selected without consultation or compromise. She took the gray nursery with the white trim with her. David and Priya's relationship, built entirely in secret, did not survive exposure. Things that only exist in darkness rarely do. They stopped communicating within 6 weeks of the divorce being finalized. Amara heard this through a mutual acquaintance and felt nothing. She had stopped expecting their situation to give her satisfaction. She had stopped needing it to. Nadia's first word was "Mama." She said it on a Sunday morning, sitting in the kitchen of the apartment that smelled like coffee and baby powder and the particular quiet of a life rebuilt on honest ground. Amara was promoted to associate principal at Mensa and Cole 8 months after returning from maternity leave. She accepted the promotion in a meeting room she had designed herself. She went home that evening and fed her daughter dinner and gave her a bath and put her to bed and sat on the sofa in the apartment that was entirely hers and felt, simply completely, without qualification, at peace. She had been asked once by a colleague who knew the full story, "Didn't you want to confront them? Didn't you want to say everything you were feeling?" Amara had thought about this honestly before answering. "No," she said. "What I was feeling was not for them. They had already taken enough of what was mine. I was not going to give them my anger too." She paused. "The delivery room was not coldness," she said. "It was completion. I finished what they started, on my terms, at a moment they would never forget, in a room they could not follow me into." She looked at her colleague. I had just given birth. I had the most important thing I have ever made in my arms. Why would I have wasted a single second of that on them? There is a particular kind of strength that does not announce itself. It does not raise its voice. It does not demand to be seen. It does not need the satisfaction of watching the other person flinch. It simply finishes what needs to be finished with the precision of someone who has measured twice and will cut once. Amara Osei did not survive her marriage. She outgrew it. And in the space that remained, quiet and entirely hers, she built something that no one could ever enter without her permission. A life, a daughter, a future designed from scratch by the only architect in the room who had always known exactly what she was building